do everything possible to protect criminals at the expense of American citizens.
But in practice, sanctuary laws might be helpful to ICE.
Pretty much all sanctuary cities have exceptions for certain individuals that locality thinks that it's okay to help.
Later. That's coming up on Code Switch
And Life Kit
from NPR.
after this news.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Janine Hurst. Federal immigration officers shot and killed a man in Minneapolis today, drawing hundreds of protesters in a city already shaken by another fatal shooting weeks earlier. Senator Amy Klobuchar identified the man as 37-year-old Alex Preddy, an ICU nurse, and state officials say
American
he was a
hero and
US
martyr.
citizen. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem says Preddy approached agents with a gun as they targeted a person they say was undocumented and armed.
Ooh.
She says Preddy resisted violently and the agent shot him. But Minnesota Congresswoman Kelly Morrison disputes that claim.
Well, didn't we all see the video?
Videos of a masked federal agent shooting Alex in the back multiple times while he was pinned down by more than 6 other masked
they're
federal
terrorists.
agents.
They're 100 times
And
worse than
once
Hamas.
again,
Prove me
DHS
wrong.
has come out with a predetermined narrative that contradicts everything we saw with our own eyes.
Yeah, because they're
Minneapolis
lying
Mayor
Nazi
Jacob Fry
terrorists.
says he will ask a judge Monday for a temporary restraining order against President Trump's immigration crackdown
Can't
in the state.
call a judge over
A
the weekend.
massive winter storm is moving through a large swath of the U.S. from the southwest through the mid-Atlantic and up to the northeast. For Connecticut, it could be the biggest snow event in 10 years. Connecticut Public Radio's Chris Polanski has
Something's going to stop these terrorists, and I think killing veterans, people working at the Veterans Hospital,
State
is
Transportation
probably not
Commissioner
going to
Garrett Eucalito says 900 snowplow
push
drivers
that
are at
back.
the ready. He asks residents to stay off the roads.
We know we're New Englanders, we know how to handle winter weather, but I strongly encourage people to stay home on Sunday.
Governor Ned Lamont is calling on people to take the storm seriously.
Weather Channel often hypes up these storms. This is the real McCoy, and I want you to pay special attention.
It's the real
National Weather
McCoy.
Service has issued winter storm warnings for most of southern New England from Sunday morning through Monday evening.
You heard it from the officials.
For
It's the real
NPR News,
McCoy.
I'm Chris Polanski
I'm
in
a storm,
Hartford,
not a
Connecticut.
doctor.
There's muted reaction from Canadian leaders to President Trump's latest tariff threats and insults. Stan Carpenter reports
Y'all wanna
Trump
annex
threatened
half of USA?
tariffs against Canada if Ottawa concludes a trade deal with
Hey,
China.
Canada and Mexico, you guys want to annex half of USA
Governor is
each?
threatening a 100% tariff against Canada for its growing ties with China. Trump accused Carney of trying to turn Canada into a drop-off port for Chinese exports into the U.S. A week ago, Trump appeared to be in favor of the Ottawa-Beijing deal, but in the wake of Davos and Carney's support of Greenland's sovereignty, Trump lashed out. Trade Minister Dominic LeBlanc says there is no free trade agreement
We all
being
support
pursued
Greenland
with China,
sovereignty.
and that Ottawa remains focused on Canada-U.S.
Only
relations.
traitors are
And
against
some provincial
our allies.
premiers say they stand with Carney in building Canada's economy. For NPR News, I'm Dan Carpenter in Toronto.
You're listening to NPR News from Washington.
Be right back.
Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky says talks with Russian and U.S. representatives in Abu Dhabi ended with constructive discussions on ending Moscow's nearly 4-year-old war, but there were no significant breakthroughs. These talks are part of Washington's push for progress in getting a ceasefire deal. Negotiators returned to Abu Dhabi for the next round on February 1st. The meetings covered military and economic matters. In San Francisco, a family of 4 making less than $230,000 per year will now qualify for free childcare under a new plan to lower the cost of living in one of the nation's most expensive cities. Daisy Nguyen from member station KQED has more.
San Francisco Mayor Daniel Lurie announced that the city will also offer a 50% childcare subsidy for families making up to 200% of the area median income.
This is going to remove a huge burden for working parents. We're going to be the first major city in the nation to actually get this done.
While many cities calculate eligibility for benefits based on federal poverty guidelines, San Francisco determines eligibility on area median income. The city is using funds from a voter-approved tax measure to specifically fund childcare. For NPR News, I'm Daisy Nguyen in San Francisco.
And New York City's new mayor, Zoran Mamdani, is working on universal free childcare up to 5 years.
Yay, thanks, Mamdani.
NPR News.
Mamdani's a real American hero.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include the Doors Duke Foundation, which aims to support the well-being
Here
of
we
people
go.
and the planet for a more creative, equitable, and sustainable future. And listeners like you who donate to this NPR station.
Just listen to the news. No, Earth is round. Team round world.
Assessments, therapy, addiction care,
I'm not a Nazi. I'm against the Nazis.
Learn how to start the journey
Welcome to the live. Nice to meet you. My name's Puffin. I go by Puffin. Nice to meet you. I guess you've never been here before if you'd ask me a question like that, but welcome to the live. We're going to stop Trump and Putin and Netanyahu. That's
What's good, y'all? You're listening to Code Switch, the show about race and identity from NPR. I'm Gene Demby. And today on the show, what it looks like when ICE comes to a sanctuary city. All right, so it's a November morning back in 2019.
It's like terrorism usually, wherever they go.
And there's this guy who's in his late 30s. He's Mexican. He's driving his teenage son to work. As they're leaving the house, ICE agents pull up. And the ICE agents hem this dude in a way that he can't really drive away around them. And those agents are trying to tell the man to get out of his car. And again, he's in the car with his son, so he ain't budging.
ICE planned it this way in a certain sense, instead of trying to get him in his house, because then they could drive up their cars and block him in so he couldn't get away.
That's Peter Mancino.
I'm a visiting scholar at the Center for Immigrant Justice at Rutgers Law School, and I'm also an anthropologist.
So his work involves learning about groups by basically embedding with them. When he was researching ICE in New Jersey, he watched hours and hours and hours of police body cam footage to better understand how things were unfolding on the ground and in the streets. That body cam footage is how he knows exactly what was going on in this particular encounter with ICE.
They call the cops, even though there's not really an emergency situation. They just call them to do crowd control.
2 local officers show up and they park their squad car in this way. So now this dude is really fenced in. Those officers talk to the ICE agents on the scene a little bit, and an agent tells them that the man barricaded himself in the car. I mean, he was just in the car, whatever. But the officers say, okay, they're gonna hang back and let the feds do their thing. And they're supposed to be hanging back because these local cops are under guidance from the state government to not offer official help with immigration enforcement. They're not supposed to put cuffs on the man in the car. They're not supposed to detain him or question him or bust down his car window if that's what it comes to, if this encounter escalates.
Safer than the terrorists with ICE doing it.
Was federal immigration business. But, okay, as this is all going on, some neighbors come. The first neighbor asked the police officers, what's going on? And the officers shoo him away, like mind your business. And then another neighbor comes out and asks the officers what's going on. You know, like, what did he do? Wondering why these federal agents are stopping his neighbor and his neighbor's kid. And the local officer says, well, I don't know. We're not part of whatever that is. And so that neighbor walks over to the car where the standoff is happening, and the local cops are telling him to stand back, get away from the scene, you know, for his own safety. And it turns out that this neighbor is an immigrant advocate
and tries to tell the immigrant who's in the car of his rights. He tries to say, if they don't have a judicial warrant, you know, you don't need to let them into your car. We are here to help you. We are watching this. We are observing this.
And so this neighbor, the immigration advocate, right, he gets into it with the cops. He name checks the sanctuary law and says, you, as local law enforcement, are not supposed to be participating in this raid or attempted arrest or whatever. And one of the cops says, yes, that is why we are not participating in their actual event. We are just here to keep people safe. So they weren't participating, they said. They were just controlling the scene and dissuading neighbors from watching or getting involved, just using their car to further box in this man that the ICE agents were after. Eventually, though, after a while, that man in the car gets out. The ICE agents put him in cuffs, and the feds thank those local cops, who again were not there in any official immigration enforcement capacity, right? The place where this all went down in New Jersey follows what's called the Immigrant Trust Directive. It's a statewide policy that's supposed to, and I'm just quote here, strengthen trust between New Jersey's law enforcement officers and the state's diverse immigrant communities, end quote. There's no real set definition of what makes a place a sanctuary city or sanctuary law. They have like different kinds of policies on the books. There's some variation. And New Jersey, like so many states and cities with sanctuary policies, is involved in this very strange political dance with federal immigration enforcement agencies like ICE. Because leave the rhetoric aside, the relationship on the ground between local cops and ICE is often way more aligned than the sanctuary branding might lead us to think. Sanctuary cities and sanctuary states have policies that are, in theory at least, supposed to help protect immigrants. You know, stuff like barring ICE agents from coming into courthouses, or keeping the local cops from asking about someone's immigration status, or not using local jails to detain immigrants. Peter Mancina, the anthropologist we were just talking to, says it's also true that in places with these laws, people in Latino neighborhoods in particular report more crimes to the police, and he said that sanctuary laws do keep some people from being turned over by local cops.
So silly Trump Hooteners think they deserve a response.
And those whose charges are dropped by 30%. And 30% is not nothing. In New Jersey, that equated to 300 people that local law enforcement did not turn over to ICE.
That was from 2018 to 2019, the year after New Jersey adopted the Immigrant Trust Directive. Peter, who is the author of the recent book On the Side of ICE, Policing Immigrants in a Sanctuary State, said that it's also true that sanctuary policies very much aid in deportation in less direct ways, because these policies have big carve-outs for how local cops can do their jobs. And those huge exceptions